Welcome to the Faith and Feelings podcast. My name is Taylor Joy, and I'm passionate about helping you untangle and honor your emotions, authentically practice your faith, and integrate both into your everyday life so that you can experience the goodness and delight that comes from living in relationship with yourself, God, and others. Thank you for joining me. Let's get started. A few weeks ago, my dad came to visit, and late one evening, in a quiet, unplanned moment, we pulled out some old photo albums and started flipping through them together. As I turned each page, looking at pictures of myself from birth through the first few years of my life, I felt utterly captivated by what I saw. It was hard to put a finger on exactly what I was feeling, a mixture of wonder, tenderness, and an ache that felt something like homesickness for the version of myself captured in those images. From 4 days to 4 months to 4 years old, I saw picture after picture of me, and every single one with this wide-eyed, toothy grin. Now, mind you, not just a polite smile for the camera, but the silly, wide-eyed, curious smile, the kind that lights up your whole face. My parents reminded me later, you were the most curious kid, confident, embodied, wide open to the world. I was so struck by these images that I saved a few on my phone, and I found myself returning to them almost every day since. These pictures have shifted the way I've begun noticing the smallest humans among us. Lately, these little ones have become my teachers. Have you ever watched how children live so close to themselves? They're deeply connected to their bodies, to their emotions, and to their tears. I recently read an Instagram post by author and psychologist Hillary McBride, where she wrote, "There are many magical things about being around kids, but one of my favorite these days is how kids often remind us of what is true of all of us right from the start. Our kids come into the world knowing how to listen to their bodies." Those words, alongside many others, including the teachings of Jesus about children, have helped me put language to why I was so drawn to those earlier memories and moments in my childhood. Hillary is right. Children live with a kind of embodied authenticity. Their bodies and emotions move in rhythm with each other. There isn't yet that layer of shame, performance, or self-editing that so many of us learn as we grow older. In many ways, children model what it means to be fully human. They feel their emotions in real time. Their tears flow when something touches them deeply. Their laughter spills out freely when something delights them. Their anger erupts when they sense injustice. And there is a profound wisdom in that authenticity. But growing up is a kind of scavenger hunt. Along the way, we collect clues about how to survive in the world, what keeps us safe, who we can trust, who we are, and what postures or masks we need to adopt to belong. Slowly, our nervous systems crystallize around patterns of protection. We start smiling when we don't feel like it. We disconnect from our tears. We lose that soft, intuitive connection to our own needs. And before long, we lose the natural attunement children carry so freely. And the tragedy is that this disconnection can make us strangers to ourselves. But here's what's also true. What kids show us is still inside of us. Right now, we are in a podcast series on soul care, and a key part of soul care is reconnecting with this childlike way of listening to our bodies and tuning in with compassion and curiosity to the life unfolding within us. It isn't necessarily about learning something new. It's about remembering what we already know. This looks like learning to pay attention to our lives with intention, holding our experiences, walking with them, asking questions, and sometimes setting them down when they no longer serve us. This practice of compassionate attention to what's happening within us, what we're learning, noticing, and experiencing, becomes a reminder that we're not just moving through life. We're becoming someone in the process. And it begins with awareness. awareness of what we are subjectively experiencing as we move through life, in interactions, in the small moments, in the ordinary ebb and flow of life. That's the invitation of today's conversation, to begin practicing compassionate curiosity towards your own heart and to rediscover that childlike way of listening that opens us up to a deeper kind of transformation. The question then becomes, how do we actually do this? What I want to share today is a simple rhythm that I found to be incredibly helpful. 5 steps for tuning in with compassion and curiosity. As John Dewey once said, we do not learn from experience. We learn from reflecting on experience. This rhythm is not a formula, but rather a gentle starting place to begin practicing this deeper kind of reflection and attunement to what's happening inside you. Step 1, notice without judgment. The first step is simply to notice what's here without immediately jumping to criticism, numbing, or intellectualizing. Maybe it's worry. Maybe it's sadness. Maybe it's anger. One thing I often do is to place a hand over my heart and silently acknowledge what I'm feeling internally. Oh, worry is here, or sadness is here. We don't have to make a verdict about who we are. It's simply information, data. Think of these inner experiences like clouds moving across the sky. They don't need to be controlled or fought. They can simply be noticed. I love how author and therapist Andi Kolber described this in a podcast interview I recently listened to. She said, even if I could just take a moment and be able to say, in this moment, I am experiencing pain. What we're beginning to do is shift from being lost in the pain to offering compassionate attention to the pain. Notice that shift from being lost in it to attending to it. Step 2, name what you feel. The second step is to name what you're noticing. Putting language to your experience creates a little space between you and the feeling. It's a gentle way of saying, I see you, I acknowledge you, without letting the feeling completely take over. Sometimes it can help to give these feelings or inner experiences an image or a visualization. If you notice feelings of rejection, maybe it looks like a shivering child in the cold. If it's anger, maybe it's a stream or river inside of you. Are the waters fast and turbulent or slow and steady? When we name what's happening inside, our emotions, sensations, even our thought patterns, we soften the intensity. We remind ourselves, I am more than this feeling. By noticing and naming what we're experiencing, we also become more aware of the internal and external dynamics at play, and awareness brings choice. Instead of reacting out of old habits or wounds, we suddenly have alternative options. We don't have to respond the way we always have. Step 3, stay curious. The third step is to bring some curiosity to what's happening inside you. You might ask yourself, what might this emotion be showing me? What do I need in this moment? Or even, what does this feeling need from me right now? Curiosity is not analysis or judgment. It's openness. It says, I wonder what this is about. This matters because when we're in a hypervigilant or hyperactive state, we actually lose connection to the thinking part of our brains. But when we feel safe inside ourselves, when we approach ourselves with curiosity instead of harshness or criticism, our nervous systems begin to relax. And this relaxation creates space for reflection. We have the capacity to reconnect with the parts of our brains that can think clearly, notice patterns, and respond with intention. And over time, practicing curiosity in this way begins to rewire our relationship to ourselves and our emotions. Step 4, offer compassion. In this next step, we meet whatever we discover inside ourselves with compassion. This is often the hardest part because many of us have learned to approach our inner world with shame. And shame says things like, I shouldn't feel this way. What's wrong with me? I must hide. Shame fuels fragmentation and disconnection inside of us. Compassion, on the other hand, says, I see you. You make sense. You're welcome here. Even the most difficult emotions soften when they're met with kindness instead of resistance. Just like a child who calms down when they know they're safe, our inner life settles when it's held and engaged with gentleness. And finally, step 5, invite Jesus into it. This final step is about bringing Jesus into the space we've been exploring, the tender, sometimes messy interior of our hearts. It can be as simple as praying, Jesus, I love you here, in this pain, in this loneliness, in this fear. I love you here, not in spite of the pain, in the pain. And when we do this, something remarkable happens. Our souls begin to open, almost like a sea anemone unfurling in the ocean, expanding and receiving the life around it. And in precisely the place where we most want to hide, numb, or turn away from, exactly where we don't want to look, God meets us. He meets us with love in our vulnerability, in the honest reality of our hearts. As David Benner writes, the single most important thing I have learned in over 30 years of study of how love produces healing is that love is transformational only when it is received in vulnerability. For me, this step is where the principles of trauma-informed care intersect so beautifully. Last week, I watched a webinar on trauma ethics by David Bedrock, which focused on key principles like boundaries, safety, and consent, guiding concepts in trauma-informed therapy. And ever since, I've been struck by how much the life of Jesus reflects what we now describe as trauma-informed practice. Think about it. Jesus was constantly moving towards people in their pain, and he met them where they were, without judgment, without force. He honored dignity and agency. He created safety, and he asked questions that offered choice and invited consent. What do you want me to do for you? Do you want to be well? He never imposed healing or transformation. He always offered it. He didn't force change. He invited it. And I've experienced this over and over again in my own life too. Jesus never barges into the soul. He waits patiently. Revelation 3 gives us a vivid image of this. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. The door to the soul doesn't open from the outside. It opens from within. And God doesn't force his way in. He waits for our invitation. He gives us choice and he asks for our consent. And this is where the practice of compassionate curiosity, the childlike attunement to what's happening inside, becomes so powerful. By noticing, listening, and approaching our inner life with compassion and curiosity, we co-create, alongside the Holy Spirit, the conditions in which our hearts can say yes. I'm so grateful that you listened to today's episode. Thank you for spending time with me. I'd love to hear from you. Connect with me on Instagram at TaylorJoy or through my website, taylorjoymurray.co. Also, if you enjoyed this conversation, it would mean so much to me if you took a minute to subscribe and review the podcast. This is an easy way to partner with me and is invaluable in reaching new listeners. Until next week.